Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to yet another episode of the Here We Go Brownies podcast. I'm your host, Hysong, coming at you live from Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Joined with me out in Idaho, our good friend, wonderful co-host, Dustin. How we doing?
Allie, how you doing out here from Boise, Idaho? How's Myrtle Beach, the Dirty Murty, treating you out there?
The dirty Myrtle. It's good. It's actually funny because it's been so hot here this summer. Like it's been blistering hot. But as we go into October, which is crazy to even think, it's almost sweatshirt weather. It's getting a little chilly out there.
You might have to get a sweatshirt from one of our friends at Only in Cleve.
Oh, you might just have to do that. You heard it here, folks. If you're listening to us, this is the Here We Go Brownies podcast, a show by the fans for the fans, and it's brought to you by our good friends at onlyincleve.com. You saw our post. It's official, Dustin. Officially official. We've got our merch launched on onlyincleve.com. Dustin, what do you think?
Allie, I thought it was fun. Well, it was really cool that you got like all giddy, like you made it. My name's on a shirt.
I know, that's what I told my mom.
Yeah, so you're like, I've made it, Mom. I've made it.
Mama made it.
I'm on a shirt. But no, as you guys all probably saw or maybe have not saw, we posted out there. We want to grow the program, expand it, make it bigger, better, funner, more exciting than what we're doing here. And we can only do that through the support of our listeners and our supporters. So we decided to make some really cool merch from our friends at Only in Cleve. We have a gray version out there now. You can get that in a hoodie, a long sleeve, short sleeve. And then the next couple of days, we'll have a brown version of that same shirt in hoodies, long sleeves, short sleeves. But any of those proceeds that you put towards that, a portion of that goes to support the Here We Go Brownie show. And we really, really appreciate that because Allie and I just put that back into the programming and to make things for software updates and all kinds of cool stuff to make our show better and expand it to even more people.
Bigger, better, faster, stronger. That's what we're trying to do. Yep. We're trying to, get you guys the content that you deserve, whether that's creative, whether that's funny, whether that's informative. That's what we're here for. It's a show by the fans for the fans. So we want to give you what you guys deserve as Browns fans. So Dustin, let's get into it. We've got a lot to get to in a short amount of time. And I say that because we've got a jam-packed program ahead. We are in week 4.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what's really crazy, Allie? It's been 6 years. We're sitting here today. Mm-hmm. It's the first time we got a winning record as a football team.
Isn't that crazy?
It's stupid, but it's
stunning.
But the fact that we can say the Cleveland Browns, let me say that again. The Cleveland Browns have a winning record in the regular season. Okay. All right.
That feels good.
We
can celebrate. Hey, we're still celebrating that win. But we're in week 4. As you guys know, you've seen some of the updates around the league with what's going on with the Titans. Some crazy stuff out there with coronavirus. Yes. And we all knew kind of that this was going to happen, but we're not going to spend too much time on that. We'll go into around the league later on in the program. But it's week 4. Browns have a winning record, which is just crazy. We've got a pretty big game this upcoming Sunday, as many of you guys know, as we travel to Dallas. Many see it as a must-win game. It would definitely be great to come out of this first quarter of the football season, with a 3-1. But
and I would almost say it's not a must-win for the Browns.
Right.
It's a must-win for the Cowboys. Now, granted, they play in the NFC East. Wouldn't that be great to play in that division right now?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If they go 1-3, there's a lot of people looking around the room. What's going on? They got Dak Prescott. They got all these star players. For the Browns, it's going to be a great game. I think they're kind of they're kind of evenly matched teams in my opinion. So I think it could be a shootout. I really do.
You know what I'm thinking, Dustin? For the Browns, it's really a good game to kind of see where you're at. Mm-hmm. Of course, week 1 against the Baltimore Ravens. Baltimore, outside of we'll talk about their performance on Monday Night Football, but they were brought back to earth a little bit. But what we knew up until that point was they're very, 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 very good.
Well, they're still good.
They're still good. Not discounting that. Yeah. But then, of course, week 2 and 3, you go out there and you play some inferior teams. You do some things very well. You do some things that you need to improve on. But I think you're going up a pretty well-matched team in the Dallas Cowboys, and it's really a good kind of gauging point to see where you're at as a franchise. what you need to improve on. Can your receivers go up against that secondary? Can your offensive line hold that defensive line? There's some really key matchups. It's going to be interesting, but I think you hit the nail on the head, Dustin. The word shootout. Dak Prescott looks great. He's been slinging it all over the place. We know what Baker can do. We know what our backfield can do. It's going to be an offensive game.
Well, and if you look at the game as a whole, it's a big road test for Cleveland. There'll actually be fans in the stands, so it's going to be more of a real game, right? A more real game-like situation. So I think it'll be a real test for them on the road. This is going to be one of their more traveled games this year. And, it's interesting. A lot of those former players on that team or current players, there's a lot of Boise State people on there. I know a lot of that roster, and it'll be interesting to see what Kellen Moore will dial up for my Cleveland Browns on Sunday. I got to see him in person many times here on the turf in Boise. He's moved pretty quickly from a quarterback's coach all the way up to an offensive coordinator. And for him to stay in that position, even with a new head coach coming in, is pretty impressive. You usually bring in your own staff, but he decided to, let Kellen stay there and call the plays. So it'll be interesting to see what he has dialed up. The one interesting matchup, I have a couple Cowboys fans in the office, so we had some nice debating going on today. Dallas has given up a lot of points.
Yeah, they have.
They're ranked 26th in the league in defense. So does that bode well to Odell and Landry and some of our offensive players having a good game? I think it does. Now, with that said, the Cowboys have the number one offense. So what does that say? Well, defense usually prevails, but we all know the defenses have kind of struggled through the first few games. So what do you end up with? I think a shootout, right? The defenses, if they can make a stop here or there, I think Baker will be able to pass the ball. I think Baker is also excited to go back to Texas. I think he'll have some, family and friends that'll be at that game. It's his home state. I think he's excited to go back and play home. I think Baker will be fine. But I think a shootout. I mean, it's a 4-point spread for a reason. It's a one possession. I think it's going to go either way.
You're absolutely right. I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be an interesting game to see exactly where you're at, Browns fans. You're going up a team that has some, they've got some injuries on that offensive line. They have some issues in their secondary, things that Cleveland can take advantage of. And we'll get into all the keys to a victory later on in the program as we kind of really take a deep dive into the preview into week 4 with the Dallas Cowboys. But at this point in time, we've got a fun little segment. We're bringing back an old segment from the Here We Go Brownies podcast.
And we're bringing it back because you guys enjoy it.
So enjoyed it. It was fun, and I think we'll get into all the predictions here in a couple of minutes. But let's do a fun little segment, Dustin. Some word and phrase association. So you guys have seen it before. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put a picture behind me. Dustin doesn't know who or what the heck I'm going to put on my green screen behind me.
And we want your participation, and Allie will look at the comments as well from our people in the Facebook feed and get some interaction with our fans as well.
Absolutely. So in the comments, guys, drop your questions, comments, concerns, anything you have. I'm going to be putting a picture up behind me. I'll get out of the way. And I want to get your initial thought or your first word or phrase that comes to mind when you look at that player, person, coach, thing, whatever. All right. And to kick it off, Dustin, we're going to go with our good friend, Coach Kevin Stefanski.
And going to me?
Yeah, going to you. This one's for you, man.
Steady leadership. Alignment. I hate to use that, but I just see steady and progression. I think when I think leader, progression, and steady. And I think for the first time in several years, we can say as Browns fans, boy, I've seen improvement every week, right? He looks like he's willing to make adjustments on the fly. He's willing to make adjustments in game, which we have not always seen in the past. And I think the Minnesota Vikings are 0-3, and I think they're sorely missing their offensive coordinator right now. And we might have got a gem here. He's one of the younger coaches in the NFL. But I think of leadership, steadiness, and I said it again, alignment.
Yeah, alignment. I love it. I'm actually going to go with, just to piggyback off that, I completely agree with you, but I'm going to go with the word discipline here. One thing that really at this point in time last year in the 2019 season, as you recall, especially in week 1, were the penalties. And that was all over the field. It wasn't just like the offensive line with false starts and holdings. It was, I mean, egregious penalties. But what you're seeing this year on all fronts and all phases of the game is discipline. And I think that starts and ends with his character, and it starts and ends with his leadership. You know, the players, the coaching staff, everybody involved knows what to expect, and what standards they are held to. So I think that Kevin has implemented a system. We're obviously seeing that on the field. It's the wide zone scheme. That's what he runs. But we're also seeing kind of a shift in culture. And I think that also comes down to alignment. He's working with the front office, with the ownership group, with everybody to make sure that the Cleveland Browns and everybody involved are working towards the same goal. But I agree with you, Dustin, in terms of leadership, culture, character. The guy's kind of got it all. I'm really impressed with what he's done so far. And I agree with you. In-game management, I've been impressed. He's calling his timeouts when he needs to. He's calling the correct plays when he needs to. I mean, there were some stupid ones week one, but really progression. Things are moving the way that they should.
Right, and I think that's what I saw was from week 1 to week 2, and week 2 to week 3, the progressions. You know, it's almost interesting. You can almost start to call them the young guns. They're kind of taking over in Cleveland with Barry, Stefanski. They've kind of started to create their own identity. And you know who we haven't heard from in weeks? And I'm knocking on wood. I haven't heard from Jimmy Haslam. He hasn't made any public comments, which I like that. You be the owner, let the coaches do their job and the GM and stay out of the way. And I think we're seeing that now. And I think we found a gem. Like he's kind of he's kind of the face of the franchise.
And it's too, Dustin, I want to point out, you know, obviously being a first year head coach in this season has got to be just overwhelming.
Right.
And I'm sure that's an understatement, but he's really stepped up in the face of adversity, and he's led this football team so far through three games. You know, I've been very impressed. Moving on. And guys, we're not just going to stick to the Cleveland Browns. We're going to go all over the place. I am going to go with recently engaged and recently confirmed that he is going to be having a child, which is really exciting for Patrick Mahomes. We saw him put on a show, an absolute show.
I enjoyed that show against the Ravens. That was a nice show.
That was a nice show. I think we all enjoyed it. And guys, I apologize that I'm moving around. I just don't want to cut his head off. It's right in front of my green screen. But Pat Mahomes, the word I'm going to use to describe him right now is elite. And I think that's an understatement. I think that right now what we're seeing is unlike anything that we've seen in the National Football League. And I'll be the first one to say it. When he came out in the league, I'm on record saying, yeah, I don't know. You know, he could be a boomer bust kind of guy. I'm leaning more towards the bust. Boy, was I wrong. This is an elite talent. If he could stay healthy, guys, you know this. He's just absolutely fantastic. But I think he is absolutely thriving at this point. He's, you know, a well-oiled machine. That offense looks fantastic. I wouldn't be shocked to see him run it back. But my word, Dustin, is elite. What do you have?
Mine is the one thing that I found impressive, and every time I watch him, it's something different, how he improvises.
Yeah.
In game, in stride, we've all seen the little throw over, the little pitch. I mean, he pitched it to his fullback the other night. Ravens didn't have a clue that was coming, and the guy walked into the end zone. And I just think he is such, you know, I went back and looked, and I didn't realize this, and if there's a listener, correct me, but I believe he has the most passing yards of any quarterback of all time in a game of collegiate college football. It's an incredible amount. It's 700 or 800 yards in a game of passing. So when I went back and looked at that, I'm like, well, that bodes well to the NFL. We're a passing league. That's what we're all about. You know, more points, more flashier offenses. So it almost like he was made to play in the National Football League. And we know, you know, he had a high-powered offense down there in Texas. But it is just interesting that in game he can just change and improvise based on what's brought to him. You know, and you know, he'll get sacked every once in a while. He'll take but he is just, I won't put him elite. And, you know, I know you use the word elite, but I won't use elite. And the reason I won't is because he's only 3 years in the league, right? And we'll get into this segment about another thing that people don't want to make people elite for the other reason. But I just think, you know, he just came into the league, and I think he's going to make it. To your point about being injured, there is such an emphasis on protecting the quarterback in the NFL now. These quarterbacks, if you barely touch them, you get a personal foul. So I really think he will stand the test of time, but I put him as, I think, a future Hall of Famer more than elite, because I can put him in that category, because if he keeps on this trajectory, he's going to play for the next decade plus. He could win a couple more Super Bowls.
Oh, if he keeps on this path, he could easily become. I'm not saying he will, but he could become the GOAT. The greatest of all time. I mean, he's that
Well,
type of athlete. Not saying he will, but he could if he stays on that path.
you just took him from boom to goat. Just saying.
No, I'm not saying he is. I'm saying he could be. He's
no, I'm
definitely on
saying
that
like
path.
I'm just thinking like think about what you thought about him a few years ago to
Right?
goat.
Yeah. No, I will admit I was. That was a stupid take, Al. That was dumb.
No,
That was bad.
So, but we'll get onto this a little later. But
Yeah.
why our predictions can be so
Yeah.
off?
I don't know anything. Here's another good one,
Not
Dustin.
good.
We get back to the Cleveland Browns, and I'll turn this one over to you. Is our guy Myles Garrett? First word that comes to mind.
Disruptor.
Mm.
Disruptor. He literally can disrupt a football game. We saw that against Washington, strip sack, right? It was a he can disrupt a game. He's done it in several games, but I see him as just a disruptor on the defense, and also leader. Obviously, everything kind of comes and goes with what Myles Garrett does on the defense. If Myles Garrett's having a bad day, our defense probably ain't doing so well either,
Sure.
right? So I see him as just a disruptor and a Pro Bowler. I mean, but mostly a disruptor. And it's funny when I watch Browns games with other people, like, man, they're like, that Myles Garrett, he gets on everybody, doesn't he? He's always in the backfield. I'm like, yeah, you're right. He's always there. And if he's coming, that ball's coming out because that guy doesn't want to get sacked. So disruptor is the word I use.
Yep, I like that. I'm going with he's a game changer.
Oh.
As Browns fans, and I saw some of these comments when they were playing, on Sunday. They're like, well, Myles didn't go out there and get 5 sacks. He doesn't have to.
Right.
Like you said, he's got a strip sack. He causes fumbles. He causes turnovers. He's not going to go out and get 5 sacks every single game.
No.
And, that's normal. But the way that he can create pressure and get after the quarterback and we saw it on Sunday, guys. The amount of turnovers that he caused, or that defensive line caused, by making Dwayne Haskins get the ball out earlier than he wanted to, or make an uncomfortable throw. That's what he brings to the table. These quarterbacks aren't holding on to the ball long enough for Myles to get home. And if they are, they're going to make him pay. He's going to make him pay for it. He came out and said, I'm not just going after the quarterback. I'm going after the football.
Well, here's another point. He gets double teamed a lot.
Yes.
And so what have we seen? Other folks on that defensive line getting after the quarterbacks of the opposing team and getting in there and having their lunch on the quarterback when Myles can't.
Mm-hmm.
So what does that do when you double team? Larry and those other guys on the line are very capable of going in there and getting pressure on that quarterback. So that front is pretty formidable. I know Vernon's out, but they're pretty formidable.
Yeah, I agree. All right, let's move over to another one. Dustin, I know this is one you're probably looking forward to, is our guy Drew Brees down in New Orleans. He's had a rough go of it. First and foremost, the first word that comes to mind, for Drew Brees right now, I'm going to break it down into 2 things, because overall, he's a Hall of Fame quarterback. He's been dominant in the league for as long as I can remember. Step up to the plate in the face of adversity. That's who he is. He's a leader. He's a man of character. But right now, he looks old, and I'm not saying that as I'm not discounting anything he's ever done. It's just this year, especially with Mike Thomas out, you're seeing his age a little bit more, and you're seeing that with all the older quarterbacks in the league right now. Phillip Rivers, Drew Brees, Tom Brady. Except for last week with Tom, but they're not completely immortal. But with Drew Brees, I'm going to go with, he is a Hall of Famer, but right now, he's struggling a little bit right now.
Yeah. I would have to, I think of when I think of Drew Brees, I think of leadership, one of the things that comes to mind, I remember he was a big deal when Hurricane Katrina came
Correct.
and
Yeah.
they won that Super Bowl, how he galvanized himself around the city and people just adored him for what he brought to that city for everybody that was suffering and the loss of life. But with him, I also see Hall of Famer, but I just see leader. Like everybody that's ever played for Drew knows where they stand with him and respect. And now that you bring this out, I pulled up a little stat. All these people out there that are ready to be like, oh, Baker this and oh, Baker that, and oh, we should go to a
Oh,
different quarterback.
Baker.
So yeah. So here's a stat for you guys. The first 32 games of Drew Brees' career, he was 13 and 19. Baker Mayfield, 14 and 18. Again, and the reason I bring this up is many people compare Baker Mayfield to Drew Brees as
Sure.
the type of quarterback he can be in the National Football League. We go a little further. 62.85 on the yards. Baker, 8,100 passing yards in the first 32 games. 54 touchdowns for Baker, only 36 for Drew. Baker threw 37 interceptions, Drew threw 33. So if you want to make comparisons, folks, and just to Allie's point, she had Patrick Mahomes boomer bust. you know,
Yep.
everybody thinks Baker Mayfield boomer bust, Well, if you compare that to what Drew Brees did in his first few years, well, he certainly fixed that in the last 10, So I think when people are ready to, throw Baker off the bus, people forget history very quickly. And I think it's interesting when you go back and compare things, people are like, Drew wasn't that good, or he was okay just his first few years. They just forget, right? Because all they see is the Super Bowl and all the years after that. They forget how he started. I mean, Peyton Manning was horrible his first year, horrible as a quarterback.
Huh, good point. I like that. Nice little statistic for you on a Wednesday, Dustin. Here's a good one for you. I think you're gonna like. I'll get out of the way. I'll get out of the way. Eric Metcalf, take it away, Dustin.
Electric is what I think of
Electric.
when I think
Yeah.
of Eric Metcalf. He's one of the reasons I became a Browns fan. He would light it up. I would see him return 2 kickoff returns for a touchdown in one single football game. He also, I would put electric and game changer. Eric Metcalf could change the dynamic of a football game in about 8 seconds with a kickoff or punt return or whatever that may be. But that guy was electric.
Mhm.
And the Cleveland to this day, they adore him. I mean, Eric Metcalf is kind of a legend because he's part of that, 80s, early 90s team that everybody wishes the new team could be, right? So, but no, I put electric and game changer for Eric Metcalf.
I like that. I was never given the luxury of watching Eric Metcalf play. Obviously, I'm young, I didn't get to see it. But you said the word that I'm going to go with here, and that's legend. That's what I think of when I see him. That's what I think of when I see his highlights or when I hear of him. I don't have that in my back pocket that I got to see it live. But what I know of him, of course, was legendary status. And I know he's beloved in the city of Cleveland for what he's done. Kind of like that Josh Cribbs, electric, explosive, dynamic, elusive. But that's what you think of when you think of him. And I know he's absolutely beloved in the city of Cleveland.
Yeah, he lives out here west and right in Seattle. So he's
Yeah,
not too far from my neck of the woods. He lives out this way because he's originally from out here and played, high
cool.
school football and all that.
Cool,
So.
cool. We've got a couple more here for you guys, and then we'll move on to our next segment. But just wrapping up here, we have to talk about this guy. We have to talk about him. Lamar Jackson, who obviously took it to Cleveland in week 1. But we talked a little bit about that Monday Night Football game, Pat Mahomes versus Lamar Jackson, Ravens versus Chiefs. In the word I'm going to use here, actually, I'm going to use a more of a phrase here. Lamar has been exceptional. He has, in my eyes, kind of defied the odds. Really not what anybody, I think, expected him to be. But I'm going to use the phrase after that performance. It was almost like it brought him back down to earth just a little bit more grounding. I'm not saying he played poorly or that he's going to play poorly going forward. But I think in week 3, at that point, everybody, that game had so much emphasis and, so many expectations.
Well, they said it was a double win, basically on
Yes.
TV.
Yes. Yeah. So I'm going to go with he's a little bit more grounded, but I'm really looking forward to seeing what he does the rest of the season, because I think that game that we just saw, that offensive performance is going to be a turning point for Lamar, whether one way or another.
Mhm. I see. I put him in the Patrick Mahomes category where he will kill you with your feet.
Yeah.
So again, I think he's when I think of when I think of Lamar Jackson, I think elusive. He can literally look like he's going to take an 8-yard sack that all of a sudden turned into a 20-yard gain. And
Mm-hmm.
that is so frustrating for a defense. Now, I will say this. You can look at players in the National Football League and they can say whatever you want, but I heard an interesting take. If you look, for instance, Tom Brady has never lost, I believe, to Philip Rivers in his entire career. And they say when those two play, you can almost see um, Philip Rivers plays with a little more angst, or not angst, but like kind of hyped up, kind of like, like, God, I'm against Tom Brady again. And I'm going to say it now. Lamar Jackson's 0-3 against the Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes. And I think when he goes into a game, he thinks, and this gets in the head of players, just like kickers missing a field goal,
Yep.
And I think he's, he said in his pregame thing, I'm tired of hearing about Patrick Mahomes this week. Like before the game, like he even said, I'm sick and tired of hearing about Patrick Mahomes. I think there's a little bit of this when you get to their 0-2 in the playoffs, and the road to the playoffs for them very, very well may go through Kansas City again.
Very well.
And I
More
think,
than likely.
yeah. And so I think when you look at something like that, does that get in your head? I've never been able to beat the Chiefs. I've never been able to beat Patrick Mahomes. It's always me versus him. And I think you see that when you get quarterbacks like, Tom Brady. And then you got folks like, Philip Rivers, come out about the same time. And you're always feeling like you're kind of in this battle to, can I overcome him in a game? And
All
I
right.
think
Oh, sorry, Dustin. Didn't mean to cut you off there.
Yeah.
All right, let's do this. Let's go rapid fire to close this segment out, and then we'll transition here. Rapid fire. Baker Mayfield, go.
Progression every game this year. Love him.
Yeah.
Getting better every game.
Yeah, progression. I like it. I'm gonna go with right now he's thriving. In this scheme. This scheme is made exactly for a quarterback like Baker Mayfield. Let's see here. Dak.
Offensive juggernaut. He can throw the ball, get it to multiple players. Number one offense right now. A test for Cleveland this weekend. That's what I
definitely say. A test. He's been pinpoint accurate. He's thrown the thing on a string. Like the guy can and will throw it all over the place.
Yep.
He here and there he'll make some crazy throws or crazy plays, but very reliable. Can and will beat you with his arm. I'm going to go with our good friend, Jedrick Wills. I've been so excited to watch him every single week. Bill Callahan has turned this offensive line into literally just a brick wall. It's been so much fun to watch. It's given so much protection to Baker Mayfield. But Jed, I'm going to go with he's learning. He has his rookie moments, but then you can see the greatness kind of shining through as well. He's going to be so good.
My word for him is fourth-year player. Yeah. If I didn't know that he was drafted in the first round this year with the 10th pick, and I had no idea, and somebody just landed me on, September 30th, I would say I would have no clue. Like he just looks like he's been playing for 3 or 4 years, and the game has come to him, and it's been very easy and natural for him. And by the way, have you seen the new Progressive commercial with him and Baker?
Oh, I have.
It's pretty fun.
I have. About the book club. I love it. All right, last two. Dustin, take it away with Leroy.
Ooh, Leroy. Okay, so I like this one. Obviously, legendary Hall of Famer, and I would be remiss not to mention that the combination of our good friend Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb, we haven't had this style of running since Leroy Kelly. So put that into perspective, guys. That's before Allie and I were ever even close to being born. Yeah. That the Browns are putting that kind of offensive power on the field. And I think we saw a little bit of that with our call up off the 53-man roster this week as well. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna also go with legend here. one of the best to ever do it. One of the most explosive and dynamic backfields in Cleveland Browns history. And it's fun to be able to see it almost coming to fruition once again. And that brings me to my last one, Dustin. I love this picture. You've got Baker Mayfield over here celebrating, and then you've got Nick Chubb. This was Earl Thomas blown coverage last year, one of my favorite plays of all time that I've got to see with Nick Chubb. So take it away, Dustin, your initial thoughts on, or your first thought on Nick Chubb.
Just blue collar, just
Tough.
grit, throwback is a good word for him. He's a throwback. If you think about it, he's not a flashy running back. He's not the Le'Veon Bell type. He just goes out and does his business. And I know we've talked about this previous, but Hooper's like, is he ever happy? Does he ever but he's just, I like throwback. I like throwback. He's very vintage. Much, well, you're wearing, look at you wearing 24 tonight. So, yeah.
I agree. I think that's spot on. Blue collar. He's as Cleveland as you can get. Just a workhorse. He's everything you want in a running back.
Well, here's the crazy thing. If you look at hindsight's 2020 in football, right? We could have easily taken someone like the running back in New York, right?
Saquon Barkley, Darius Geis. I mean, that's who I liked at the time of the draft.
But I'm saying here we have Nick Chubb, got him at an extreme value in the second round.
For free, pretty much. Right. Keep in mind, that was Brock Osweiler pick.
Yeah, for free. But instead, we got Baker Mayfield and Chubb and Ward and all these other players. And right now, we'd be sitting here with a guy with a torn ACL probably, or something, we just don't know. But, hindsight's 2020. This is one hell of a draft class. I mean, over the last few years that are actually starting to pan out. Really starting to come together.
That is our fun little segment, phrase association. So that's just kind of something fun we get to do every now and then. Bring a little joy to the program, Dustin. Let's transition here. Of course, we want to give a shout out to our good friends at onlyincleve.com. Go check them out, anything you need. And we also want to give a shout out to the Cleveland Indians. We won't talk about what happened last night, but I will talk about this, Dustin. We are in, where are they at?
We're giving a score update in the game right now?
Yes, yeah, a little score update. Of course, there was the delay, but Indians are up 1-0.
And which inning, Allie?
We are in, looks like we are in top of the second here.
Oh, so all right, we got to run on the board. So all right,
we got to run on the board. So that's
well, we got to win tonight, right? We got to win tonight.
Win tonight. Have to win. So speaking of Only in Cleve, if you need a Cleveland Indians hat, shirt, Cleveland Browns, Cavaliers, Ohio, anything you need, or a Here We Go Brownies podcast shirt, go on over to onlyincleve.com. So Dustin, we were able to break down a little bit, kind of talk a little bit about our opponent coming into week 4 with the Dallas Cowboys. I want to talk a little bit about keys to a victory, how to beat them. I think it's really important to stick to your guns and do what has been working well. However, this is a class and a team that we know is pretty well matched. They can and will beat you. They haven't played their best up until this point, so I think they're going to come into this game looking at it as a must-win. It would definitely be fun and good and everything that we want to beat the Cowboys in Dallas as we close out the first quarter of the season. But Dustin, give me your initial keys to a victory on how to beat the Cowboys.
Well, it's interesting. So the Cowboys would be 0-3 if the Atlanta Falcons knew how to take an onside kick. I mean, let's be honest. Like they could be 0-3 right now, and this would be even more of a desperate game for the Dallas Cowboys. Keys to victory. So I look at it. I think they'll do pretty good against the run with us, right? I just think they'll be able to defend the run a little bit, and they know we like to run. To me, that opens it up for big plays. Keys to me in this game, and I'd love to see this, but I thought about this before the show tonight. One of the keys that I'd like to see is an early turnover that turns into points. Mm-hmm. If we can get a turnover on defense, a fumble, a pick, or something like that, we saw how successful that turned into in the Washington Redskins game. But I think if we can get a score early off a defensive turnover, that's going to be my key to victory, because at that point, I think we need to build a little bit of lead in this game and then keep going with that lead and keep them on their heels in this game.
I agree with you. I think that, like we said, this is a pretty well matched opponent. The Cowboys are well coached. They've got a quarterback that can and will throw it all over you. They've got a running back that'll run it down your throats, just like we know with Nick Chubb. They do have a little bit of a depleted offensive line, some injuries on that front. We know the past couple of weeks they've started some undrafted rookie free agents at the tackle position. Dustin, you know about Leighton Vander Esch. He's obviously not active.
Collarbone. Yeah, he's out with
Yeah,
collarbone.
he's out with collarbone, so the middle of the field's going to be a little bit depleted there, and we do know that their secondary isn't what it was.
Correct.
So I think that there are some aspects that the Cleveland Browns can step up to the plate and, take advantage of. First and foremost, you hit the nail on the head. It's winning the turnover battle. Sorry, I think I just had a stroke live on air. But but yeah, we saw against the Washington football team. If you cause turnovers, you have to not only go get the football and win the turnover battle, but you have to capitalize on that. And I think that Dallas is a team that if you can do that early, get in their heads, make them come from behind, you will
Correct.
obviously be at a tremendous, tremendous advantage. So that's one.
That's opportunistic defense, right?
Exactly.
Take those opportunities and
That
make.
brings me to my next point. Offensively speaking, work the middle of the field. So, obviously you want to run the ball and you want to run the ball well. I think this whole entire Kevin Stefanski scheme is based off of the run. We know this. However, we do know that Kareem Hunt didn't practice today. So, did they elevate Dontrell Hilliard from the practice squad? Yes, they did. Do they have Dearness Johnson? Yes, they do. Do we know if Dontrell Hilliard was elevated to possibly come in to help in the running game, or was he elevated because of JoJo Natson with the ACL tear? Is he going to help in the return game? Not sure. Kevin Stefanski was asked that at his podium availability. He
Did we
didn't
get a
promise it.
reason why Kareem was out today? Anything?
I think Coach Stefanski said it's precautionary. But I don't know. I don't know at this
It
point.
sounds like he must have a little ding or
A little something. Is he going to
yeah.
be ready to go on Sunday? Probably. But in the case that he's not, guys, I think you can still feel fairly comfortable that you've got still probably the best running back in the league ready to jam it down their throats. And of course, two solid backups with Dearness Johnson and Dontrell Hilliard. But it starts and ends with the run. Get the run going early. Nick Chubb down your throats. Kareem Hunt, if he's available, down your throats. But then start working the middle of the field. Involve your tight ends. We saw Harrison Bryant obviously thrive against the Washington football team. Get Austin Hooper involved.
So this
Take
could be a big
advantage
game.
of Leighton Vander Esch out.
This could be a big game for Hooper. We haven't. He's kind of been here and there, but this could be a breakout game for someone like Hooper.
Mm-hmm.
That, what. Now that I think about it, this just came to me. He played down, and correct me if I'm wrong, but playing with the Falcons, he's used to playing on the turf. This might be a good game for him going out there playing on the turf in Dallas. So this might be a little, in the dome. This might be he may feel comfortable in that kind of setting. It might be a breakout game for him.
I agree, and I'd love to see it. Another couple things here is secondary has to be ready. We know Greedy hopefully is ready to go. Kevin Johnson ready to go. Terrence Bunny Mitchell has been great. We obviously won Denzel Ward at full health because, like we said, Dak Prescott can and will throw it all over the field, but he's got so many weapons at wide receiver, whether that's Amari Cooper, Gallup, CeeDee Lamb, they will take advantage of that. So you want your secondary at full health.
Yep.
And then of course, last but not least, on the Ali Hysong list of keys to a victory against the Dallas Cowboys, is the D-line has to get pressure. And they've been fairly consistent with that. We're hopeful that Olivier Vernon can return to play. But if he can't, Myles Garrett in the middle of that defensive line, Porter Gustin have to be ready to rock and roll. And I think they will be.
Yeah.
Certainly think they will be.
Any word on Mac? Is he good?
As far as I know, yeah. As far as I know, he should be ready to go. Of course, he was limited last week. Sure. I think that's just coach easing back into things. But I think hopefully
this should be interesting if we got a lot of our folks back, what this kind of game could look like.
Yeah, definitely. So with that, Dustin, those are our keys to a victory.
I have one last key to a victory.
Let's hear it.
Was not brought up. So here's a fun fact for all of you Cleveland fans out there. So watch your televisions on Sunday. When Baker Mayfield throws 26 or less passes in a football game, he's 6-1. I think Kevin Stefanski might be onto something here. If he throws 25 or less passes in the football game, we might have a victory on our hands.
We might just have a victory on our hands. Wouldn't that be? Wouldn't
Well,
that be
and here's the
something?
truth. Here's the truth. When you see teams throw it 40, 50 times, doesn't mean they win the football game. It means they've been forced to go to the passing game because they're
Mhm.
down or whatever. So there might be some magic formula to this 25, 26, passes a game. So
Yeah, most definitely, especially when you had the backfield that the Browns do. Take
correct.
advantage of that.
Yep.
So Dustin, with that, I think if the Browns can do all of those things that we just listed, they do come out victorious on Sunday. And if that's the case, and that's what we're hoping, Dustin, what is your score prediction?
Boy, I do think it's going to be a shootout. 28-31 Browns.
Oh,
I mean,
I
I
like it.
I
Yeah.
mean, I do, but here's the thing. I can also see us losing. I could see it
Yeah.
because we're not predicted to win. But we're getting better every week. So I could see. Yeah, I'm going to go 31-28.
Okay. So I am actually going to consider this. I think we all said at the beginning of the season or beginning of the off season, you know what? We haven't had a traditional offseason like we would like. I think at this point, defenses aren't going to be at full go really until week 4, 5, and 6. But I think that this week is the week a little bit more of a defense. And I think you'll see that on both sides of the ball. So while I still think that offensively there's going to be a lot of points scored, yes, I'm going to go with, if you would ask me probably a week ago, I would have said something along the lines of like 34-27 Browns. But I'm actually going to go like 27-24 Browns.
Okay.
I'm going to keep it down in the 20s. And I think, yes, it's still going to be offensively driven. This isn't going to be a defensive, kind of game. However, I think that we're going to take it down a notch on both sides, and both defenses are going to be a little bit more involved than they were in the past couple of weeks.
Okay. Yeah, I just look at the ranking of the 20. When I see a defense ranking near the bottom of the league,
Yeah, I know.
um, they give up a lot of points. And you can look at this and go back, Ali. If you look a couple years ago, the Chiefs were lighting it up, but their defense was giving up 35, 38 points because they were
Right,
terrible,
right.
right? So I think that you could see that kind of game, right? Like Dak will light it up, but then he'll give up 25, 28 points on his defense. So I think we could be in for a shootout. And maybe it's, a defense making a key play here or there is the difference in the football game, is
Okay.
what I think.
I'm going to give you a bold prediction. I think.
And then I got to give you one as well.
Then you got to
Correct?
give me one. Yeah, yeah,
By
absolutely.
the
And I'm
way,
putting you on the
folks, you
spot
just threw
here.
this on me. This is
Yep,
not part of our
putting
system.
him. Nope, I just thought of it. It came into my mind, and you're seeing it live on air. So Dustin, I'm talking now to give you that time to think of something. But but
I got
my
30
bold
seconds, folks.
prediction.
No, Stan.
Yes. So last week I said my bold prediction was a defensive score. Now the
Mm.
defense obviously forced a lot of turnovers. We were able to capitalize. I am going to go with the Browns get a pick 6 in this game.
Whoa.
And I think it might just
All right,
be,
Allie,
you know who I'm going to go with? I'm going to double down. This is double bold. Not only do they score on a pick 6, Dustin, it's Kevin Johnson back, lacerated liver. What doesn't matter because he just got a pick 6.
okay, you're digging deep in the bag of tricks now.
It can happen.
I know. That's right. How many of those Miller Lights have you had? No, I'm just kidding.
Not enough. Just kidding.
um, boy, so okay. I'm gonna go with bold prediction: 2 sacks by Myles Garrett
Okay.
and Dak Prescott. 2 sacks, not one, but two, to kind of, all these people that are like, oh, Miles didn't get any sacks. Well, you got two. Okay.
You know what? I like that because two things on this. One, you have a lot of guys going back to Texas for the first time, and it's kind of a statement game. You've got
Yep.
Baker going back, you've got Miles going back, Case Keenum, Garrett. I mean, they're all from Texas, but it's a big deal for them to play in Dallas,
In front of their family, no
in
less.
front of their family, in front of their friends,
Yeah.
especially for Miles, even. But I want to mention about your bold prediction. It's funny because while that's bold, Miles Garrett is that good that it's not even that bold. It's not even that far fetched that it could happen.
Okay, so I'm gonna go with that, and then I'm gonna give you a hybrid one because you think
Yeah.
that one's a little too vanilla for you. Okay, that's fair. Okay. You ready for this one? Kickoff return for a touchdown in the game.
Bold, and I am here for it, ladies and gentlemen.
So kickoff return for a touchdown. We don't see a lot of those in the National Football League, right? We just don't. Now, and sometimes it's from people that you wouldn't think are back there to receive the ball, end up running all the way, right? Like it's a guy that's not supposed to be in there and he just wants to make a statement like, look, I got it.
Dontrell Hilliard, yeah.
Yeah.
Be a good day for it.
So let me see. So if it's a kickoff return, that's after a score, right? So I'm gonna change that. It's gonna be a punt return for a touchdown. So let me
Okay. All right.
I'm gonna go a punt return for a touchdown. So we turn over on downs, they kick it to us, and we run it all the way back. I'm gonna go a punt return for a touchdown.
Okay.
That's
all
my
right.
bold prediction, and that's pretty bold, folks. That's
That
a
is
bold
bold, yeah.
because that doesn't happen very often in the NFL. But we had it in the Ravens game.
That's
I
true.
believe they did a kickoff return for a touchdown, right?
They did, yeah, they did. So, guys, that's your bold predictions, keys to a victory, and preview as we go into Dallas for Week 4.
Any questions,
guys?
Allie? Any
And
questions?
so, yeah, I'm always monitoring, and we want to encourage you guys to drop your predictions. I've already received a couple of them here in the comments. Those that are, whoever comes, closest to that prediction, you might just be a winner chicken dinner.
Oh, that's right. So yeah, very important, guys. So we didn't even get into this. Anybody that puts their score prediction out there, and Allie will put this in after the show is over as well. If you predict the score of the game or come closest to the prediction of the score, you get a nice free credit from our friends at Only in Cleve. So you could you can get a free shirt. So you get a $26 credit. So you could support us with a Here We Go Brownies shirt on a free credit, or you can pick out some of the cool new shirts and new lines of stuff that they came out with just in the last couple of weeks that are football themed. So
absolutely. So check them out, onlyincleve.com. Dustin, let's wrap up the show with our Around the League segment. There's some really cool games that are going to be on, and we'll go through the division as well here in the AFC North. So games to look forward to. Dustin, I've got to be honest with you. I think Chiefs Ravens was so exciting that everything this week just looks a little but one that I'm actually looking forward to, and I can't believe I'm saying this because they're two pretty bad teams, are the Broncos and Jets tomorrow night. But I'm looking forward to it because I have
a reason I'm looking forward to it. But
so I'm looking forward to it because I think that right now both teams are so bad. They're so bad. But I think it's kind of a standout game for Sam Darnold to really shine. I really think it is.
So I'm looking at it from a totally different perspective, and you may not know this yet. But are you familiar with who the starting quarterback is Thursday night for the Denver Broncos?
Am I?
It's Brett Rippon, the quarterback out of Boise State.
Oh yeah, you are excited then.
I'm very excited because I don't know if you know this. His uncle is Mark Rippon,
That's right.
The Super Bowl winning quarterback for the Washington football team, but it was the Washington Redskins when he won the Super Bowl. But that's his uncle. So they come from a great pedigree of quarterbacks. He had a great run of 4 years here at Boise State. I'm going with the Denver Broncos win that game, and Brett Rippon makes John Elway in the front office think not once but twice, have we found our quarterback right here? And by the way, people don't realize this. They signed him as a street free agent, and I believe gave him like a couple $100,000. You don't give street free agents that kind of dough if you don't think they have some legitimacy to at least make an impact on your football team. So I said it here first. There's a bold prediction for you. Watch for Brett Rippon to make a statement on Thursday Night Football.
Is Bold your middle name? I mean, is that just who you are now? Are you just Dustin the Bold? Around the league, guys.
Allie the alignment?
Allie, no. It's my first name is Alignment. It's Alignment Hysong, and I just go by Allie. But I'm Allie Alignment Hysong. Who am I kidding? Dustin, some other cool games around the league. I think, God, this is another bad one, but I'm excited to kind of keep an eye on it. Is the Jags in Cincinnati. And I think for the same reason, I'm looking forward to that. Maybe Joe Burrow can get his first win
very easily. Yeah. Well, the offensive line can at least make him upright for 3 seconds. Yeah.
Not have him deceased, in the second quarter. Of course, Browns Cowboys, I think it's going to be a really fun game. Of course, we've just talked about it, but I think there's going to be a lot of eyes on that football game because some of these really Of course, you don't have Steelers Titans. That would be a good one. But some of these
Right.
aren't so great. But AFC matchups, there's
Well, and here's the intriguing thing about the Giants, or excuse me, the Jets Broncos game. The league and a lot of people have heard the rumors if the Jets lose that, Gates is gone. The head coach is gone for the Jets. So I think it's almost a do or die game for the Jets. Is that game in Denver or in New York?
to New York.
Okay. Anyway, no fans. So by the way, that was one of the things that was brought up today. They think the no fans in the stands, offenses have been able to take huge advantage of that because they can just go out there and run their scheme and not have to worry about crowd noise. And that's been to the advantage to a lot of offenses. That was brought up why you see a lot of offenses being able to kind of have their will on defenses so far in the first 3 games. But no, I'm looking forward to Thursday Night Football.
Yeah, I really am.
Repping.
Yeah, another couple that I'm also kind of excited for on Sunday. You've got the Patriots Chiefs. That's going to be a really fun game to watch. Cam Newton.
And that's at New England, right?
No. That's in Kansas City.
Okay.
So that's going to be a fun game. Can the Chiefs, kind of come off of that really fun game on Monday Night Football and have not have a hangover off that? I think they'll be just fine. Bills Raiders 425. I think could also be a fun little game because Bills right now, to be honest with you guys, they're not too bad. They're looking pretty darn good.
Well, I saw a lot of, that quarterback and when he played for Wyoming, they're becoming more of a formidable team.
Yeah.
And the fact that they said you learn a lot from a football team. They almost lost that game. But how good the will of a football team is, do you let that team beat you or you come back and make a late surge to make sure you seal the win, right? And they were able to do that. But I see those teams as kind of evenly matched. Chucky Ball and Gruden Ball out there in Vegas, he's got those guys pretty. Derek's having one of his better seasons. He looks like he's pretty dialed in. I think that could be kind of a shootout type of game too, where it goes back and forth. So yeah, that could be a good game to watch.
All right, let's go through the AFC North, and I want to get your predictions on these games. Of course, we've got Joe Burrow taking on Gardner Minshew in the Jacksonville Jaguars. Dustin, who do you have winning that game?
Jags defense is still pretty decent. I'm gonna go Jags on the road by 1.
Now I'm gonna go. Joe Burrow gets his first NFL win at home, and really I think that the Bengals win by 2 possessions. So, I am.
I think I took the wind out of you when I made my projection.
No, you really did. But I think Joe Burrow is that good. And I don't think of course the Jags defense is still pretty good, but I think the lines kind of match up somewhat evenly. I think Joe's going to have a little bit more time to make decisions and get the ball out. I think he has a good game. I think he's got a really good game this week. Yeah. Of course, we know Steelers Titans postponed due to the whole coronavirus situation.
I heard they could possibly play on Tuesday night. We might have Tuesday night football for the first time ever.
Tuesday night football. So let's go ahead and talk about this as if they are playing.
Okay.
Just for the sake of podcasting. Steelers Titans, that's you've got a pretty formidable defense there in Pittsburgh, and a pretty I don't want to say explosive offense, but a very run heavy offense and it's at
Tennessee, right?
I believe let me pull it up here. Yes, in Nashville.
I go with Tennessee, and I'll give you many reasons why. Tennessee was in the AFC Championship game last year. They're a good football team, and they kind of push their will on a lot of people. And it's funny how they did that through the playoffs. What did they do? They ran over everybody, kind of like what we're doing, right? Kind of a good key success to run, right? Here's why I think they're going to win. The Steelers are 3-0, but they're probably the worst 3-0 football team in the league, other than they're probably the worst because their opponents are 0-9. Like they're 3 teams that they played. None of them won a game yet. So I don't think they've really had a real matchup yet that, that's going to really test them. And Tennessee is going to be that test. And I think they're going to lose this weekend. Or on Tuesday, excuse me.
Tuesday. Okay, yeah. So I'm going to disagree with you in the sense that I think the Steelers are really good. However, I do agree that they've played some not so great teams. But I think that as their gears keep going and the wheels keep moving, they're going to get better. I I hate saying this as a Browns fan, but the Steelers defense is tough. I mean, they're probably one of, if not the best in the league at this point in time. Now things can change, but I agree with you in the sense that the Steelers lose. I think the Titans beat them, but Steelers defense is top notch. But I'm going with the Titans win. Going with the Titans win in Nashville.
Okay.
And lastly, we'll close the show on this one. Dustin, give me your thoughts. This is we've got the Washington football team versus the Baltimore Ravens. Who do you have winning the game?
I'm assuming it's in Washington since Baltimore just had a home game.
Yes, this is in Washington.
But no fans. I think Ravens bounce back. I talked to this with a few folks today as well. I think we've learned that the Chiefs are kind of the Ravens' kryptonite, but it doesn't mean they're not as good or better than the rest of the entire league on top of below the Chiefs, right? So it's not like they can't go back out and just win another game against, like we did against the Washington football team, right? So no, I think they get a bounce back game, probably win by 10 points or more, maybe 2 touchdowns like the Browns.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Washington, look, they looked okay week 1 and week 2. Then they, come to Cleveland. Dwayne Haskins has an absolute meltdown. And it kind of going off the rails. You have Chase Young out now with an injury. They're not winning this game. They're not even going to come close.
No.
Baltimore by at least 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
But that's what we got going around in our division. Guys, I think it's important.
And how tough does our division look now with a 3-1, a 2-1, and 2-1? I mean, I would love to play in the NFC East right now. We'd be in front.
Yeah, same. Same. Nonetheless, guys, I think it's important, and I think we can all agree, the AFC North is tough. You've got to be able to win the games that you're supposed to win because, and I don't mean to sound like a pessimist because I'm not, but, winning the division could be very, very difficult with Baltimore and Pittsburgh also in your division. So when you go against teams like the Cincinnatis of the world or the Washington football teams of the world, you have to win the games that you're supposed to win.
Yes.
Because our division is not throwing you any favors.
Well, it's interesting, like the fact that we were 3rd last year. I think the Cleveland Browns making or not making the playoffs will come down to the last 4 games of the season. And the reason I say this is we play the Jets and the Giants back-to-back weeks in New York. By that point, neither one of those football teams are probably even looking at playoff contention and are probably just packing it in, right? They're going to. And we've seen that with Browns teams in the past. They just don't give 2 you-know-whats the last 3 or 4 weeks. We're not even looking at a playoff spot. We're not even on the hunt. The hunt was like 8 weeks ago. Like, and then we have the Steelers for the last game of the year at home.
Yeah.
I mean, that could be the difference between making the playoffs or not making the playoffs.
You're right.
And that could come down to those 2 teams fighting for a wild card spot. So I think as you look at the schedule, it's going to come to us at the end of the season. And I think we're going to have our own destiny in our hands when it comes to that last month of the season.
Dustin, you're exactly right. Win the games you're supposed to, look the way you should, and it'll all come together. Guys, this was a lot of fun little program for you. Some phrase association, some around the league, all that good stuff. Dustin, any closing thoughts as we wrap up on a beautiful Wednesday?
Just first and foremost, we love you. Thank you for your support. We'll be back on Sunday to give our post-game yays or nays of what happened in the football game after the Cowboys game, the big game that we'll be watching this Sunday. And then, of course, we all appreciate, like we said, we love that the merchandise is out there now. We'd love your support. Like we said, all that proceeds come back, or a big portion of those proceeds come back to us to help build and expand the program. And then Allie and I have some cool other things coming our way with expanding the program, how it looks and feels, and how you see us on Wednesday and Sunday evenings.
Things to come. Stay tuned. With that, guys, we're going to wrap up real quick. Let's check in on the Cleveland Indians. Looks like we were on a little bit of a delay. But the Indians are up 4-1. So with that, I've got to go watch the Tribe. That's what I got to do.
I was just gonna say, comes down to game 3 tomorrow night, right? Or is it? Yep. Will it be tomorrow night, or or there'll be a break?
What? Good question. I don't have it in front of me, but nonetheless, let's go Tribe. Go get your Tribe gear, your Browns gear, everything you need at onlyincleve.com. Go get your Here We Go Brownies merch at onlyincleve.com. Nonetheless, guys, stay safe. Stay healthy out there. And as always, Dustin, go Browns.
Go Browns.